Hello, it's Imogen here again, and I'm back with my friend and colleague, Shay Seaborne, to continue our conversation about anxiety. And in this um, conversation, we want to be more practical. What can you do when you're anxious? We're going to attempt to answer that question. So first, just a little recap about what we talked about in the first video, and please feel free to jump in at any time, Shay. That we talked about how anxiety is actually a really useful and important emotion and a function of us as human beings, and that it helps us protect ourselves and take actions to do that. And it can even help us connect with others in meaningful ways. Um, um, but obviously, it's not the most pleasant feeling in the world, and that for some people it can become quite serious, the level of anxiety they experience on a daily basis. Um, Anything you'd like to add to that before we get to the what can I do about it? Yeah.
Well, anxiety is about uncertainty, a vague uncertainty of the future. From working with you in particular, and also from the neuroscience, I've learned that the best antidote, if you will, to uncertainty is curiosity. They're kind of related, but curiosity has a lot more possibility in it, and it actually relieves some of the distress from anxiety. If we can intentionally choose to be curious, then we're focused on what's actually happening rather than imagining what might happen.
So that's actually a first tip on what you can do, is that cultivate that curiosity about it. I'm thinking one of the first things we can do that maybe even would come as a precursor to the curiosity is to actually notice what we're feeling and naming it, right? So if we're not even aware of it, then it's hard to be curious about it.
Yes.
So one simple way that we can do that is to put a little distance between you and the thing that you're noticing about yourself, by literally saying, I am noticing I am feeling anxious right now, rather than saying I am anxious, which is also true, but by putting yourself in that observer role helps you have a little space between. And I think it also helps with it means you're not kind of fully in it, you're kind of being able to step outside, but you're also being very present, so you're not just dismissing it.
Yes.
Either.
Yeah, and that observer role, like you say, gives you the space and some objectivity as well. And oh shoot, I just lost my train of thought.
Well, I think it relates to this name it to tame it idea, which we did mention before, but I think that's a really important first tip, right? So I am noticing I am feeling anxious right now. And I would actually suggest that if you're able, we know that we're anxious, and it's not from what we're thinking about. The thoughts go with it, but it's bodily sensations that tell us that this is anxiety provoking, right? It's not just, oh, the sky is blue. That thought is creating
you're having an internal experience.
Yeah. So naming those things too can be really useful. Okay, I'm noticing my neck feels really tight right now, or I'm noticing my breath is fast or shallow or whatever, or my stomach is clenching. Not to dwell on those things, but just to notice and name it and see what's actually going on in a very kind of they're the facts. My neck is tight. My
Mhm.
stomach is clenching. I don't guess.
And
Anything
then
you'd like?
we can have choices as well. Like you mentioned, oh, I noticed my breathing is whatever, and the breath is making a mindful breath is one of the best ways to change your internal state. Even just a quick sigh or like a pleasurable sigh, like you
Absolutely.
feel that almost immediately. Even just
Yeah.
watching somebody sigh like that can change how you feel
Yeah.
inside.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so that's very easy and quick. It's not going to necessarily, we're not saying that any of these things will take away the problem that you're anxious about, but they can disrupt the amount of anxiety you're feeling to make it more um, tolerable. I mean, sometimes it
Mhm.
could go away because you could realize that, oh, yeah, that's nothing I need to worry about right now. And you
Mhm.
literally can take that in. um,
Yes.
um, but mostly these things come, keep cycling if it's something that's really bothering about us that we're worrying about. So we're not going to just forget about it because we took a nice sigh and named it. But those things have interrupted the stressful responses
Mhm.
and given us a little bit more space. And as we talked about in the previous one, anxiety, unlike full blown fear, we do have access to reasoning and cognitive abilities, but even more so when we take those little pauses and give ourselves a little space. So, one of the positive, that's not really a good way to say it, but the positive function, the function of anxiety is to help us make decisions that will and take actions to help
Mhm.
protect us in the future. And when we can pause a little bit, that will give us more chance to see what the actions that I could possibly take are.
Mhm.
Um,
Whether
so that,
that's doing something to fix your bank account issue or just taking a momentary pause if it's something that's totally out of your control. And the important thing about the pause is it gives your nervous system a break from the distress, and not just your nervous system, your whole body, because when you're under distress, your whole body, every cell in your body is being affected by the hormones of stress. So if you take a break from that, even for a few seconds, and you take another one and you take another one, those add up to give your nervous system relief. And if you have a practice that you use regularly to get out of the distress cycle, you're going to build your capacity to maintain that non-distressed state more often and for longer periods of time.
and you'll also have more access to um,
Your
the
prefrontal
tools that,
cortex.
well, that too, yeah, that too, but the practice and tools when things are always going to come up in life that make us feel anxious, that stress us out. Um, and so it's, if we've got um, um, this kind of background information, if we understand a little bit, even in this really simple way that the neurobiology of anxiety is to help us problem solve, I guess,
Mhm.
and protect ourselves, that it's really kind of forgiving and compassionate to ourselves, and that in itself, um, I think, lowers the stress response because we're not going into it. I can't tell you how many times it's like, why am I being so stupid being anxious about this? So then I'm adding,
Mhm. You get
calling
distressed
myself
about your
names.
distress.
And I also kind of, oh, and no one else gets anxious about this. It's just me. And we can get in that um, frame of mind. And when you do talk to other people about it, maybe their anxiety isn't exactly the same, but many people probably share something very similar, and you're not alone. I think that's a really helpful thing to remember.
Mhm. Yeah, that it's a natural, normal human response to um, uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
And when we understand that and we have some tools, then we can actually use it to improve our quality of life instead of letting the anxiety make our world smaller and smaller.
So one thing we mentioned earlier was that, if you can take an action, however small, or actions, to do with the thing that you're worried about, that's a really super way to lower your anxiety. But sometimes that's not possible. It's just completely out of your control, whatever the thing is. But if you are able to move your body in some way, I mean, if you're a runner, go for a run, but, dance or just, move in some way, that's been shown and studied to be just a fantastic way to get these things, I don't want to say out, but it's somehow completing a stress cycle.
Yeah, you're expressing that energy. And also, especially with large muscle movement, that takes a lot of brain connectivity and coordination. So when you're doing that, you're using your brain, so much of your brain, to do those things that it's focused on that rather than the other stuff that you don't really want to cultivate.
Any other ideas, tips, suggestions for what people can do when they notice that they're feeling anxious about something?
I think we covered things really well. There is a quote that I'd like to share, though. This is from Margaret Warenberg. Mental health does not equal the absence of emotional suffering or discomfort. It is the engagement with emotional suffering and working through rather than around.
I like that quote. Thank you. Just so before we finish, I think it's really another thing that's helpful to remember that feeling anxious about something shows you care about it. Whether it's about your safety, about the safety of others, or some other aspect in that way, it means you care about this thing or this person. And that's, I think, really helpful to remember that, this is coming from a really nice place, right? Not a stupid place. Yeah. And any other ways that you can help yourself get present in the here and now, because anxiety is about something in the future. And
anything that stimulates your senses. Notice a flower, something in your place that makes you feel good when you look at it. Spray some scented oil. Wash your hands slowly in warm water. Anything that brings you present and in your body.
Yeah. Notice your feet on the floor, and you could even just kind of move them and stomp them, and you're getting a bit of that movement in as well, but you're really kind of feeling that connection with the ground, which is right here, right now. Can be noting things in your environment, but also noticing, there's my breath, there are my hands on the table. It can be really, really simple stuff. And like we say, that's maybe a moment of interrupting your feelings of anxiety, but those moments can really
they add up.
Accumulate. Yep. And
you build new neural pathways for calmness.
Yeah. So we'd love to hear from you if you have any comments or questions or other suggestions about ways to help yourself when you're feeling anxious without dismissing the anxiety or repress it. I think that's the problem. We try and carry on as if it's not happening. So how can we? What was the word from the quote? It was something about going through it rather than
engaging it. Yeah.
Engaging it. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we teach tools and practices to help regulate your nervous system that are super for helping in situations when you're anxious, and we teach ways to help you get more in your body, for want of a better way of expressing it, but more aware of what's going on. And then that's more opportunities to notice and choose and pause. And we practice pausing because it's something that we can do, but it's hard without practicing it to be able to pause and notice and do the things. So our next course, Foundations of Regulation, is starting in May. So if you'd like information about that, I'll put that under the video too. Anything else? All right, thanks for watching, and do get in touch if you have questions or feedback.